Welcome to another Scottish Watches video. We have got Pietro from the limited edition with us, and this is a little bit of an encore performance. We had some HYT watches in the studio just a few months ago there, and the response we had from viewers was sensational. They loved it. They didn't understand what the hell they were looking at until Pietro explained it. So he is back once again with a new watch, and also the guy that kind of crept into the end of the last video. So how are you doing, Pietro? And can you give us the rundown on these lovely pieces?
I'm very well, Ricky. Thanks for having me. HYT decided to focus on a completely new way of telling the time. Gregory Dour, the CEO of the brand, famously likes to always state the fact that, we've had enough tourbillons, we've had enough chronographs, no need for another brand to start playing with those sort of complications, but let's try and find a brand new way of telling the time.
If anyone hasn't seen the last video, I would recommend that you go check it out because you explain everything, start to finish, how it all works. We will give a quick run through on this one, obviously, in case you haven't seen that, but I'm loving the colour scheme.
This revolution, which is actually related to the mechanical caliber that has been manufactured by HYT to fill up the upper part of the case. Whereas the lower part of the case is actually occupied by these two strange looking bellows that are actually flexible reservoirs, each of them containing a liquid. So there are two liquids that are contained in those two bellows that are actually, by the way, made by NASA for HYT, which operated by the mechanical movement, they squeeze out a liquid that flows across the dial in order to give you the indication of time or the indication of how much time you have left today to enjoy.
I know about these watches because I was here when we made the last video. So I can actually interject with knowledge, which is very unusual for me, very unusual for our podcast and our channel. Now, the fluid that goes in this, correct me if I'm wrong, is the second most expensive fluid on the planet after scorpion venom.
That's correct. That's correct, Ricky. If we turn the watch again, we will see that these two fluids have to have some very distinctive characteristics because, as you can see there, the time you're reading is basically 8 minutes to 4. The 2-4 is indicated by where the transparent and the black liquid meet.
This part here. Okay, just where this meets.
For that to happen, those two liquids, they can't mix. Not only they can't mix with each other, but they can't stick to the capillary that contains them as well. They have to be resistant to any sort of shocks, temperature shocks. If you were going to shake the watch now, we will see that the liquids can't move anywhere. They will stay firmly where they are.
I'm not using my good hand, I'm using my other hand.
To give you the indication of the time. Yeah, so this liquid is actually a secret recipe that has been developed. And yes, 1 liter of that liquid is the equivalent of over $11 million, which is absolutely crazy. So it is calculated in every single watch. There is the equivalent of $3,000 to $4,000 only in liquid that is squeezed out by those two bellows. The other incredible detail is how the dome that is actually protecting the system in there has been shaped, because it's one single piece of crystal which has been carved basically out to create the sapphire that goes on top of the dial itself. It's a big job because sapphire is often mistaken as a very fragile material, but it's actually one of the toughest materials on the planet. And basically, you can basically cut it just with a diamond point. It's a big job, only to carve out the sapphire parts of this timepiece. What you're looking at there is also the indication of the 24 hours time, which is added on stencil-like numerals that are laid out laterally in this piece. You can see number 17, 16 over there. Although the idea with these timepieces is not necessarily again to read the time, but to just at a glance like if it was
a fuel
load
gauge.
bar. Yeah, a loading bar, yeah, a fuel gauge, exactly. How much of your time is gone and how much is left, which is a genius idea.
Now, should we do the party trick? Should we do that?
Shall we do them?
Should we do that?
Yeah, absolutely,
right, okay.
absolutely. So now it's 4 o'clock, as you can follow the black fluid progressing like a fuel gauge, as Ricky said. Now it's 5 o'clock. So at the end of the next hour, at 6 o'clock, when we hit exactly 6 o'clock, then the retrograde will kick in, and the two bellows that you see at 6 o'clock will push the liquids all the way back. So you can start another cycle of 12 hours. And here it goes. Now is the transparent liquid that is pushing against the black liquid to push the black liquid back again to 6 o'clock to start a new cycle. If you want, it's like if you had your working day cycle of 12 hours, and then after the retrograde function, you step into your leisure part of the day with the next 12 hours. It's absolutely magical, and nobody else ever did anything like this. And of course, it's patented technology by HYT as hydro timepieces, as they like to be called.
Couple of points there. One is that is black fluid. That is not clear fluid, that is not air, that is black, pressing against the other fluid that's coming the other way. So this is going back the way into its own bellows, where it's stored. And if you watched, as I was coming up to that 60-minute point for it to flip around, the accuracy of where the fluid was sitting in between the numerals is incredible. Considering you have to be microscopically minute with the movements so that it does show if it was in between the 5 and the 6, that would be half past the hour. It was incredible seeing how close and how accurate that would be. This is the skull watch. What's the proper designation for it?
Soonow is all about, enjoying the life that we have, the moment that we have, and it's a philosophical interpretation of liquid time. So when we are checking how much of our day is gone, how much of our day is left, the idea should always be about, making the most of the time that we have available. So the Soonow, so the skull shape that has been created on that dial is a reminder of this very fact.
Yeah, something I noticed, I don't think I mentioned in the last episode until maybe the very end, was that like a sort of kid's toy where you'd put your hand in and the pins would fall through and leave an impression, the skull is 3D, made up of all these different layers of pins. And then obviously the metallic work there is pinholes. Even
just the capillary that contains the liquids, I've seen it, HYT making it in their premises in Neuchâtel in Geneva, and it is a jewel within, within the masterpiece. It is actually shaped by hands, using, of course, a machine that is hitting the sapphire, and the lady that's operating the machine is actually shaping the capillary herself to the right form, to be then able to be coated in that way I explained before, to contain the liquid, and yet still grant the precision that is needed at that level. So we're talking about precision that has to be down to the micron, because liquids are unfortunately glorifying, amplifying mistakes.
You obviously do a lot online. You've got your own website, you've got your Instagram, you do lots of live content. Do you want to run people through where they can find all this good stuff?
Absolutely. If you're interested in independent watchmaking, the limited edition is curating a selection of over 30 independent watchmakers, for which we are the official retailers and in some cases official agents, like for HYT. So we specialize in new items. Sometimes, we're able to source also the odd, very rare pre-owned timepieces. So we give a full service to our collectors. And we try to entertain and entice collectors as well on our Instagram account, thelimitededition.uk, where we create content on a daily basis, interviews, factory visits, photo shooting, and all of that. So thank you, Ricky. Thank you for the space and the time, and I look forward to do this again in the near future.